Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Duncan. So Tag Tuesday, and I'm actually going to do a tag for Tag Tuesday. So it's just got a quick one. I don't have a lot of time right now, but I really wanted to do this tag. And this is the Self-Aware Reader tag by Courtney Ferrata. Saw this on her channel about a week ago, and it is fantastic. It's just more about your own personal reading than like any specific books. But I really like to watch those videos and do those tags, and yeah, it's very interesting. So I'll get right to it. Number one, what most draws you into a novel or story, makes you want to keep reading? Plot, characters, writing style, atmosphere, something else. So a lot of the fiction reading I do is mystery. So I'm inclined to say plot and characters are huge, but in turning this over in my mind, I think writing style is the most important thing for me. I think if someone has a very good way with words and can be playful and you just like being in their company, I think it can really overcome a lot of shortcomings with plot and writings and character development. Like The Big Sleep is one of my favorite crime novels, and yet the plot is kind of stupid. Even Raymond Chandler said he doesn't really know what's going on. The character is amazing though, but the writing style is really what just draws you in and keeps you and I've reread that. I can reread that book so many times because of the writing style. I think that's even more important maybe in mystery crime fiction, where there's too many books that it's all about the plot, and so once you know, and if it's particularly memorable twist at the end or something, then if it's all about the plot, then the rereadability of that is non-existent. If that's all it's about. But if you have incredible reading style, incredible writing style, then you can just keep reading that. It doesn't really matter if you know what's happening. It's because you're enjoying the use of language. You're enjoying the writing style. And number two, what is a conventional trope that will immediately turn you off in your reading experience with a novel or story? So I don't really have a turn-off. I think any conventional trope in the right hands can be executed really well. Again, I think writing style has a huge impact on that, and I'm not someone that's easily turned off. The only thing that maybe will turn me off, and I can't remember the last time I even finished a book, but if something is just overtly offensive, and I don't even mean in like me being a little bit sensitive kind of way, but just like if the book is kind of overtly telling you doesn't want you to read it, then that I'm not going to, or if it's asking you to sympathize with something that's so abhorrent, then I'm not going to. But I probably wouldn't even pick those books up in the first place, to be honest, because I don't read a lot of books that I don't like, so my books are usually quite vetted. Number three, what most appeals to you when reading nonfiction, makes you want to keep reading? Again, I think this comes down to writing style and presentation. It doesn't matter how interesting a subject is to you. If it's poorly written, poorly presented, if it's like super dry, something like that, overly academic, like even academics don't like to read a lot of dry academic work. I mean, I know they have to, but like it's not enjoyable. It really is enjoyable. So you have to. It has to be well written. It has to keep you engaged, and it has to be presented well. If you're reading like a history, and it's just jotting around all over the place, not really making connections between each chapter, then it's going to be confusing. If it doesn't necessarily have to have an absolute chronological order, but each chapter has to be kind of linked. It has to make connections between the chapters and stuff. So otherwise, it's just gonna be weird and confusing. Number 4, what is a conventional trope in nonfiction that will turn you off in your reading experience? Again, there isn't really any conventional tropes that will turn me off. I'm not going to read self-help or any of the like culty Jordan Peterson style books, especially the ones that like Jordan Peterson focused on men and are seemingly quite misogynistic and kind of elitist in some ways, but whilst also playing the victim card, which really bugs me. But I'm not going to read those books. So I guess that's the biggest turn. I guess Jordan Peterson is the biggest turn off of any of books for me. Number 5, what would you say you read more for pleasure and enjoyment or more to learn and exercise your brain? Well, both really. Why can't exercising your brain be pleasurement and enjoyment, and why can't something purely escapist and fun actually be stimulating to your brain? I purely read for pleasure, and part of my pleasure gained is from learning things. I find that very valuable, and I definitely enjoy reading kind of sensational thrillers and just things that don't really advance my intellectual knowledge, but they definitely do something for my brain, which is very rewarding. And I think all my reading is pleasurable though, even if I'm learning or just purely escapism. What am I up to? Number 6, which type of books are you likely to rate more highly to enjoy more overall? Brain candy, pleasure enjoyment books, or brain protein, learning exercise books? I'm gonna rate a good book more highly than like a good book's a good book. It doesn't matter if it's pure pleasure or pure intellectualism. A good book's a good book. Again, it comes down to writing. If a book is really, really well written and does what it says it's gonna do, then I'm gonna love it and rate it really high. I'm very bad. On my Goodreads it's basically all 5 stars, even though even with books that aren't 5-star reads, if I really enjoyed it, it's a 5-star read. I don't really get into the nitty gritty. I don't really do massively critical reviews or anything. If I enjoy something, I enjoy something. It doesn't matter if I learned something or if I just purely loved an escapism. So number 7. Do you have a sense early on of whether or not the book you're reading will be a 5-star read? Has a book ever surprised you in this regard? I generally, most of my books are either recommendations from people. A lot of it is mainly booktube channels now. I don't really talk to a lot of people in my life about books. In my regular non-online life. Other than that, I read a lot of reviews. I highly vet books. I don't test. I do occasionally buy things on whims, but it's usually crime novels within a series, like the HarperCollins Detective Crime Club series, or the British Library crime series, where I've read a couple, so I kind of know what I'm getting myself into. And the other things I buy on whims are more non-fiction books of subjects that I'm really interested in, and often I'll kind of know the author anyway, so it's not a complete whim. I have kind of vetted the author out a little bit, but otherwise I generally read a ton of reviews and listen to people talking about books before I actually read them. So I'm very rarely surprised. Concerning books that you've rated 5 stars in the past, or if you don't rate them, then books you really loved, do you think you would feel the same way about them now? So I have actually 2 examples of recent rereads of books that I've read. I read them both probably about 10 years ago, over 10 years ago. One was Ask the Dust by John Fante, which I definitely read in my early to mid-20s. And I just reread it this year, I think. Now that I'm in my mid to late 30s. And I definitely did not enjoy it as much as I did. The writing's quite good. The characters are kind of... It's not that the characters are bad, it's not that they're badly written, it's just they're not that likable. And I don't always mind that, but it's definitely very much actions that it's very much a book about being in your early 20s. Just leaving home kind of thing, and it just doesn't appeal to me as much as it did back then, for very obvious reasons. I'm very settled down now. So yeah, so that wasn't as I definitely rated it less, and my desire to reread more John Fante definitely seriously waned. Whereas the other reread I did was Raymond Chandler's Big Sleep, which I enjoyed just as much, if not even more, because I just really focused on his writing, and he's such a good writer for me. the way he uses language is perfect. And just some of the little asides that Philip Marlowe says and stuff. It's so great. And Raymond Chandler also really, he had a very classic British elite education. So he's very well rounded in classic literature, probably like Greek and Roman classics, as well as Victorian classics and stuff. He's very protective of the crime novel, and it deserving to be more widely read and esteemed. And it definitely, little asides that Philip Marlowe does in I think especially The Big Sleep. And so yes, and so that actually increased my wanting to reread Chandler. And I think over the course of next year, I think I have most of the Chandler books. I definitely have a big anthology of, I think, 4. And then I have a couple other standalone books. So I think I'm going to try and reread most of his novels, if not all of them. Because I can probably pick up the others quite easily too. So yeah, I think over the course of next year, I think I will. Or at least next couple of years, I think I'm going to reread Raymond Chandler. And that is it. I'm not going to tag anyone. If you see this and want to do it, just do it. It's really great. Thank you for Courtney for making such a great tag. And I hope you all have a great Tag Tuesday. And I'm looking forward to watching all your videos.